It's shaking! It's shaking! It's shaking! Oh my God, it's shaking! And then there was quiet, but for the screaming and crying of the victims of the earthquake. And all of a sudden, I'm swimming! There's water! It's everywhere! There's water! It's coming! It won't stop coming! And then there was quiet, except for the screaming and crying. And then for some people up in the north, there was no power. None at all. The pumps don't work. Oh my God, the pumps don't work. My instruments, they don't work. There's no indications. It's getting hotter. The pressure is building. And it's getting hotter. And the pressure is building. Oh my God, it's really hot. And the pressure is really high. And the fuel, what about the fuel? Is the fuel melting? Oh my God, where's the gas going? The pressure's higher. Boom! I have no indications. I have no lights. Oh my God, what is going on with my reactor? But there wasn't crying and screaming because everybody had left. But wait, that was the first reactor. I've got 3 more just like it. And the pressure is building. And I have no indications. That's the terror faced by the operators of Fukushima Daiei in northern Japan. When following an earthquake and following a tsunami and a loss of all electrical power, their world literally began to melt down. So we can understand a national disaster bigger than any of us could imagine. Probably the largest recorded earthquake in modern times. We can understand the resultant tsunami. They are acts of God beyond our comprehension, and we easily dismiss them. But the terror of a man-made disaster, of the reactor plants overheating and exploding, and of the fuel pits with no water in them, catching on fire, a radioactive fire with particles of the most toxic stuff we have ever developed going airborne. We can't even begin to comprehend. We can't dismiss it. We built it. What is the threat to the United States? Do we have this problem? That is the focus of my speech. We have 35 boiling water reactors. The news will tell you, just like the ones the Japanese built. I will tell you, we designed it and gave the designs to them. Theirs are just like ours. Theirs might be better. They were built later. We have 69 pressurized water reactors. So a boiling water reactor is like a pot of water on the stove. There's no real pressure. A pressurized water reactor can operate at hundreds of pounds. The steam is a lot hotter. It's a lot higher pressure. It's a lot more sensitive to the shaking and jarring of an earthquake. 50% of our reactors are in an earthquake fault zone. So we can't just say, that's Japan. They're so small they didn't have any place else to build the reactors. We did the same thing. 75% of our spent fuel, which is estimated to be 65,000 metric tons. Assume a ton is 2,000 pounds. That's 65,000 times 2,000. That's a lot of stuff that we don't want just lying around. And it's literally in a swimming pool. That's a problem. The same thing that happened to Japan could happen to us. They know conclusively that 2 of the spent water fuels caught on fire. That is the worst fire in the world because that nasty stuff goes airborne. and goes everywhere and reaches the United States to where we could detect it in cow's milk in Washington. Did we design this by default? Well, no. The plan, the infamous plan, had been to reprocess the fuel. But in the course of reprocessing, you provide purified plutonium, which makes great bombs, which is a target for terrorists to steal. We've been combating terrorism since the 70s. So we decided, let's not reprocess the fuel. Oh, did I mention it costs a lot of money to reprocess fuel, and that hole in the ground doesn't cost quite nearly as much to just keep the fuel in the water, where it's, quote, safe, unless you have an earthquake and a tsunami, or a terrorist decides to fly the plane into the nuclear facility, and then it's not so safe. But I said the pool in the ground. 31 of our spent fuel pools are 70 to 80 feet above the ground. Who is the engineer that designed this one? Why wouldn't you put it in the ground? By the way, the 4 spent fuel pools that we're talking about at Fukushima Daiichi, they're not in the ground, they're above the ground. When they crack, the water leaks out. In 1982, the nuclear waste policy recommended that we start disposing of fuel in dry casks. Get it out of the pools where it could be a threat, where it's a greater danger, where bad things could happen to the fuel. In the year 2020, Yucca Mountain, the dry disposal site, was supposed to open. Last year, the current administration canceled those plans. Yucca Mountain was 20 years behind schedule, and we just canceled it. We have no plan. There's no way forward. We have a danger far greater than Japan because we have had and still have more nuclear reactors with more fuel in the pools. I implore you, convince people to reopen the Yucca Mountain plan. Thank you.